if you could take a moment and go to thegrowingbanddirector.com to give at least $5 or $3 a month, and it helps the content continue to be created for you to help our profession grow. Let's go back to our scheduled episode. Welcome back to the Growing Band Director podcast. This is episode number 239. I'm here with Dr. Benjamin Taylor, the composer and program director at Jacobs Composition Academy at Indiana University. Ben, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks, Kyle.
Awesome. Happy to have you here. We're going to listen to a bunch of your pieces with audio tracks, and not all with audio tracks, but some of your music for people to listen to from grade 1.5 up through grade 4. Also going to talk about lots of other things, band directing. Looking forward to it. So first, we're going to start with a topic that you presented on a Midwest in 2022 called Jamming with Your Ensemble, using musical games to remove the fear of working on improvisation and composition in the full band setting. Can you guys give us some highlights from that for people who weren't there?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, most states have some kind of thing written in their curriculum about teaching creative music or composition. And most of my band director friends are like totally paralyzed of what in the world do we do to fit that kind of thing in our band classroom? And so, a colleague, Dr. Joseph Soa, and myself, we this is an area that I've been studying a long time and interested in, especially connecting with teenagers, um, because middle schoolers and high schoolers tend to already be making stuff up on their own anyway. At least I was at that age, and uh, let's you know present composing and improvisation in a way that is not loaded with the terms of like, oh, improvisation means to be like a jazz bebop improviser, of which very few people are. um, I'm a jazz trumpet player, and yet I can't solo like Dizzy Gillespie, right? So, uh, anyway, removing all that like stigma and fear of, oh no, like what am I going to play and what am I going to do? And all the attention is on me, like removing that from the equation and instead saying, look, we're all going to create together at the same time. And so basically what we did was come up with different games. We call them games instead of exercises, right? Games to play where we're creating music. And it's everything from something really small where they're only making one tiny choice to, okay, now let's give you more ability to make more creative choices and more and more and more. So like one of the first games we usually do is, and you could do this with your ensemble tomorrow. uh, okay, we're only going to use the first 5 pitches of the concert, B flat major scale, and I'm just going to refer to them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You get to pick if you're going to start on 1 and work yourself up to 5, or on 5 and work yourself down to 1. That's your choice. You only get to play each note one time as a long tone, beautiful, full tone, shape the sound as you desire. But I'm going to give a downbeat, and then we all come in. Again, you're either going to be on 1 or 5, right? And then we're slowly going to be hearing people shift down to their next note or up to their next note. And then we'll hear it resolve again. We'll hear that 1 and 5, and we'll know that we're all done. And this will take about 30 seconds, is about how long. And I invite you to all close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Just choose whether you're going to start on 1 or 5. Here we go. Ready? And we go. And they're like, and afterwards I can be like, great, you just composed, you just improvised, you just made something up. Yes, it was very structured, but you had a choice in what was going on. And so, and it's, by the way, it's based off a sonic meditation idea by Pauline Oliveros. She does all these really cool sonic meditations, and so yes, it's not a very complex piece of music or anything, but it gave them something that they had to act independently of those around them, and they had to make a choice. And when are they going to move to the next note, etc. So, yeah.
And as part of that, they're listening too. I mean, when you close your eyes, you're going to listen more when you're not looking. Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. Excelsior Music Publishing provides new music for concert band, jazz ensemble, solo and ensemble, and books for all levels and occasions, including a specially curated and robust selection of music for your contest and festival performances. A variety of overtures, marches, and lyric works included on numerous state lists await. Select music that's perfect for your contest and festival needs at excelsiamusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. I want to thank Austin Custom Brass for being a sponsor of today's podcast. Trent Austin started this wonderful shop back in the Boston area many years ago and has moved to Kansas City. Check out their unique line of doublers instruments that are perfect for students, band programs, and players of all ages. The Austin Custom Brass Doublers Flugelhorn is their most popular selling instrument, available in 5 different beautiful finishes. These flugelhorns come with a case in Austin Custom Brass's Fab 5 mouthpiece. The Doublers Flugelhorn offers a quality sound, playability, and affordability. Get one for yourself or your whole trumpet section today. Call Austin Custom Brass at 816-410-0826. They are located in Kansas City, Missouri, but they ship all over the country, and they're wonderful humans and great people to hang with. Austin Custom Brass works with band programs from all over the country. They can provide a bid to you today, work within your school's budget, and accept POs. Call their team today at 816-410-0826 or email at info@austincustombrass.com. One thing I thought of, a lot of us do call and copy with our band, like I play, you play. At least
Yeah.
I do that, like from the general music. It's a way of like teaching tons of things with my horn and the band responding. But then sometimes I'll do call and response, where it's same rhythm, change the notes. That's another game you can play. What's an example of another game that you would present in that Midwest other than that?
We do a game. Another one of my favorites is so it's like an ear training game and teaching them to hear pitches inside of a scale and be able to recognize like which scale degree is being played. So this is something more a little more advanced, but so saying we choose a key first. Let's say concert G minor. And maybe also we say, hey, we're gonna use a minor pentatonic scale. Oh well, what the heck is that, Dr. Taylor? Great, let me explain it to you. So that they can actually learn a theory concept too in the middle of it. And uh, so everybody has to be familiar with that scale and have it in their head. I might play through it with them a couple times. Okay. And maybe even say like, okay, let's all start on scale degree 3. Let's make sure everybody knows what that is. Okay. Oh yeah, good. Everybody knows what that is. Okay. So now that we've established a key that we're working in and we have the scale degrees, one person is allowed to play a 3-note melody. Any 3 notes from that key. They can't leave that key. Okay. And I might even tell them you have to start on whatever. You have to start on 1. Okay, so James plays 1, 3, 2. Great. The next person has to use 2 as their first note. We call it ride the train because it's like James played his, then Sally plays hers, then John plays his, and they're all going to be connected though because the last note of James is the first note of Sally's, the last note of Sally, etc. Right? So they're making up a little line, but they're also having to listen to what did the last person play, and sometimes they're not sure. And okay, hey, can you play it again for us? And keeping it to 3 to 5 notes is a good length because otherwise they can't even remember what they played, right? So yeah,
And
follow the
and
train is
and
another fun game,
doing these are great because you're not reading, right?
right?
All of our rehearsals, like we're reading, we're working on literature, we're working on fundamentals, and this is another thing to be doing. You can do it for as can imagine as little as a minute or two, or you can
Yeah,
stretch it out to more, as a way to pace through your rehearsals. So I think if people are thinking about a way to maybe do something like pick one of these games or make another game up like this, do it in a smart way. Like don't stop doing all your other stuff. Just use it as part of a rehearsal that makes sense for your kids. Could be at the end, the middle, the beginning.
yeah. By the way, there is a ebook. I want to say it's $7 that Joseph and I published with these games in them.
And
It's on F Flat Books. I'll send you the link so you can put it in the notes.
all right, we'll provide that in the show notes for people. Beautiful.
Yeah, and
Um,
maybe I'll ask them. Maybe they'll even give a big discount for your listeners.
that would be fantastic. Less than seven. You
That
say
would,
$7?
I believe that's what it costs. I honestly haven't even looked in a long time.
Cool. We'll provide that for people. Tell us a little bit about Music Creators Academy.
Sure. Well, so Music Creators Academy came to be during COVID.
Of
I
course.
felt like I can't stop making music. Uh, I've got to find a way to continue to have a creative outlet. And so I made a summer camp called Music Creators Academy, all virtual, online, 2 weeks, where, okay, let's get a bunch of high schoolers together. Although we did have a couple younger kids too. Um, a couple middle school age kids joined us, and we'll have one large group ensemble. We'll play together. And we did a piece that I wrote specifically to be performed, virtually. The final product of that piece was a Brady Bunch type of
Yeah.
video amalgamation of each student playing their part. The piece is called Legos Emit Gnarly Overtones for band and audio track. By the way, Legos Emit Gnarly Overtones is LEGO.
Hmm.
The whole idea is like these little Lego cells coming together, and there is some improvisational elements in that piece. And but then we also divided everybody up into small groups. So just like 5 or 6 people, because in our testing, that's about the max that if everybody's wearing headphones and you turn on original sound on Zoom, you can hear 4 to 5 people playing their instrument at the same time. Like Zoom's not picking and choosing as long as they've got headphones on and as long as they've got their original sound turned on. Which meant that we could play together, but of course there's latency. You can't have like a single downbeat hit. So we had the students, each small group worked with a professional composer, Kate Nishimura, Garrett Hope, myself, and Joseph Soa were the mentor composers for the small groups. And basically, we just guided them through a bunch of our compositional games first, right? And then ultimately leading to them creating their own piece of music to be performed on our final concert on Zoom, where it would just be, the 5 students unmuted and performing, again, embracing the latency. So the piece has to be something that can be performed without strict synchronization.
Hmm.
And it was really cool and it was really fun and everybody had a blast. And then it was like, okay, once everybody started coming back to school and performing again live, is like, are we going to continue to do this? And it has now morphed into a video game scoring workshop specifically, is what I've done the last couple years. And that feels really good because I've always been interested in video games and writing for games. And apparently a whole lot of teenagers are too. So
Hmm.
it's been really fun. So different focus now. I mean, now the creativity part is in working in a DAW and producing tracks that could be used in a video game. We give them a real life scenario, a real life game to say, okay, you're going to compose an exploration track and a combat track and etc. But that's what it looks like now. Yeah.
Cool. We're going to dive into some more of your music and talk about video games and all that here in a little bit. Before we do that, I know you and I are both into exercise, as everybody should be of sort of their own, whatever works for them. You have 7 kids, I have 2, so I bow to you. But, as people who have children who are teaching, obviously structuring time is important. My dad always told me the most important exercise is the one that you'll do. Now,
Mm.
I'm not that way because I could do a lot of different types of exercises and I enjoy them. So I'm going to ask you a question. I think, first of all, do you enjoy exercise?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So let's talk to the person who doesn't enjoy exercise. Like,
Okay.
any words of advice for the band director who's like, I just finally got home and I just want to sit and watch TV. So, like, what's a way to maybe get some exercise into their life if they don't enjoy it?
Walking. That's what I would say. I mean, and I feel like that's kind of what is the core of what I do too. My wife and I really enjoy walking together. And sometimes we even say, this is a no cell phone walk.
Hmm.
uh, it just sometimes we talk, sometimes we just walk and we just hold hands and we walk around the neighborhood. And often we'll do that on our dates, even if we're downtown or whatever. Downtown Bloomington's not very huge or anything, uh, but yeah, I would say just go on a walk. Talk like if we weren't on Zoom, if we were on the phone right now, I'd be on a walk talking to you. I feel like most of my best ideas come while I'm moving my body. They don't come from me sitting on the couch.
100%.
Creatively,
100%.
artistically, as a father, yeah.
It's funny when COVID happened, I was exercising a lot, but I could exercise first thing in the morning because I could
Mhm.
like take my time getting ready, and then by the time my kids needed me and all that, I was good to go and I had it done. I found when I went back to teaching full time that like the 5 a.m. heavy workout was like I was getting to the podium at noon or at noon at like an hour three of on the podium, and I'm like I didn't feel like I had the energy, which is funny because like I had it before, but I kind of already like stressed my body a lot. So
Yeah.
I found that now that we're back to teaching full time, I'm in the mode of see, I have stuff at home, so I'm not going to a gym. I have a bunch of stuff in my basement. I can come home and then every other day, 2 out of 3 days, kind of thing like that, I can go downstairs, walk, jog. For me, it's a lot about weights because I know that
Oh yeah.
resistance training, I know for a lot of people is not a thing they focus on, right? It's not like important to them. They don't want to get bulky, quote unquote. But I think resistance training, if you just think of it this way, like they even say if you can hold 2/3 of your body weight just in your hands. So say you weigh 200 pounds, whatever that is, 130 pounds. Can you just hold it for a minute? Yeah, which is like some people might not be able to do that. But as they say this for aging, as you get
Uh-huh.
older, because if all of a sudden my mom who's 75 starts to fall, I know she can catch herself
Sure.
because she does this. We think about it's not exercising isn't about how you look. You're not exercising so you can impress somebody, especially once you get married and you have kids. And like
Yeah.
you're exercising for your health, you're exercising for the people that you love, so that as you age, you can be a better band director. Like I think you should exercise if you want to be a better band director because you have better energy, you're healthier.
I agree. Yeah, for me, it's not the physique or the aesthetics, although those are a nice benefit or side perk. I don't know what the right word is there. Um, for me personally, I've been really I've gravitated to endurance sports because of the like mental, emotional, spiritual component to it, where I feel like when I'm embarking on a big challenge, I find things in myself that I didn't know were there.
Hmm.
When I'm running that ultra marathon or when I'm doing that crazy burpee workout, I'm uh yeah, it's like I'm discovering a little piece of me. I do believe in a creator, and so I think like, okay, cool. He put some more stuff in me than I even knew was there. And so there's yeah, I could go on and on about this topic. It's funny, like when you run into somebody else who appreciates discomfort, and the the payoff that comes from being uncomfortable for a while, but then to be able to say, "But I did it anyway,"
Hmm.
uh, it's like there's an immediate brotherhood, or I don't know what the right word is, the fellowship of like, "Oh, you suffer through this too? Great!" Like, and the payoff too. Oh yeah, awesome. And it's not about like biceps or having a six pack abs, which I do not. It's although yeah, um, I've had them in the past, but it's been a happy coincidence of it's not what I was going for. Right? Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, I think first of all that any type of exercise is good exercise. Like do something. You know, yoga is fantastic. Lift
Oh yeah.
weights, walk, run, like whatever you like to do, do that. But also, it's like if you're practicing like as a musician or band director, you're just trying to get better. You're trying to get better always. Not, okay, this June I'm going to be my best band director and I will then stop improving. Like, no, we're just always continuing trying to get better. So the exercise thing is big too. Like, don't exercise so you can lose 20 pounds. Because when you lose that 20 pounds and you stop exercising, well, that's bad, right? So just figure out what can I do my whole life? Like, what can I
Hmm.
do so that I keep exercising continuously so it's a way of life? And I think when people can make that way of life switch, that whatever they're doing, it has to be something they do consistently. I've also heard that 100 good workouts is better than 10 amazing workouts, right? Like whatever you're doing,
Ooh,
don't
yeah.
try to be a perfectionist. Like don't kill yourself every time. Like it's good to really push yourself, but just doing something will add up. And you can't exercise a lot and not get in shape. right? Like you're going to get more in shape if you put that time in. I know there's methods and ways to do it better and ways to do it worse, quote unquote. But and I know we're really down like into the rabbit hole here of exercise in this band director topic, but I just think it's an important topic for people to be thinking about is like you want to be a good band director, but if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating pretty well, if you're not drinking water, if you're not exercising, you're not going to be the band director for your students you want to be.
I, yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Here's one more thing that's helped me while we're on this topic is that I have some friends that are, have similar mindsets, and it's way easier for me to get up on a Saturday morning to go rock with Chris and Alex than if I'm going to get up on a Saturday morning and do something by myself. Hands down, because I'm not going to be the guy that texts, "Oh, sorry guys, I can't make it." Like, so having that like accountability of, well, Chris and Alex are going to be there. I can't not show up.
Hmm.
Uh, that has been really helpful, definitely. And just a couple other like friends online too that I see their posts and their shares, whether it's on Strava or whatever, and it's encouraging. It's like motivating. Like, oh man, he just had a great run. I'm going to go out and have a great run.
Cool.
So
Um,
yeah,
so as we start talking about your music, one thing that is pretty cool is that you clearly get ideas for your music from other styles of music, from other
yeah.
genres, right? So what are some of those other styles and genres that you get ideas from?
Well, I'm a jazz trumpet player. I think a lot of that bleeds in. My love of groove, my love of uh, syncopation and energy. Um, and then, I mean, basically, my compositional output kind of mirrors like what I'm into at that time, whether it's music or hobbies. But like, I definitely went through a big phase where I was way into like dubstep and electronic dance music, EDM music, and I was listening to a lot of that, and like, man, why can't we have a little bit more of that sound in the concert band world, or in the concert space, whether band or orchestra? Uh, Other influences, uh, certainly like the, what's the right way to say it? The exploratory music of Western uh, composers like John Cage,
Hmm.
uh, composers like Stravinsky, or um, that, I mean, yes, Debussy, Mahler, Ravel, Beethoven, Bach, yes, absolutely, but also I feel like for me personally it's more like the Joseph Schwantner, the Stephen Stuckey, the Jennifer Higdon, the well, and honestly, a bunch of my colleagues in Blue Dot. That's why we're together. It's because I really look up to their music. So, Viet Quang is writing some incredible music, and Omar Thomas and Dave Biedenbender and Jen Jolly. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, well, I better say everybody to not leave anybody out. Roger's there and Jess Turner. I think I got us all.
Hmm.
uh, that's what's inspiring me and motivating me, because I want to write music at that high level, and I see the craft and I'm like, oh, that, and I'm inspired by a lot of living composers.
So as we get into some of your pieces, the first three are with recorded track. A couple questions
Mm,
before we start listening. First of all, um, some other pieces that came before you that used recorded track that you think people should check out. I'm going to throw out Machine Awakes. Who wrote
yeah,
that? Is that Stephen Bryant?
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Machine Awakes is like a grade, I think they call it a two-ish, whatever. It's pretty cool about it's like Terminator, how the machines take over the world. So I think people should check that one out. What else do you have?
I mean, my big influences were, I was at Bowling Green State University when Stephen Bryant was kind of like they called it a guest composer in residence, but he wasn't actually physically there very often. But anyway, and he wrote. I feel like he wrote Ecstatic Waters while he was on that residency. Anyway, whether or not that's true, it's Ecstatic Waters was like the first piece that I saw with electronics that I was like, whoa, this is
Mm.
really cool. I didn't know, I'd never thought about doing that in the band world. Like I had written a bunch of electronic music with like a soloist or a small group, like a Perot ensemble in my studies, but not anything with concert band. And then Alex Shapiro, she's been a huge mentor to me. I look up to her and her music. It's just so fun. Uh, and maybe I hope that people describe my music as fun, because I feel like her music has so much life and vitality and just like raw joy. And of course she does a lot with EA electroacoustic band music. So yeah.
For band directors who have not done this before, and they're thinking about like whether they hear one of your pieces and they really like it, or they listen to another piece and they want to do it, what are some real life tips when you're record? Okay, I have my eighth grade band in this band room, and I also want to play with this recorded track. Like, what are some logistical things you have to make sure you do to make sure it goes well?
Well, fortunately, as you just said, it's logistically easy as long as it's just an audio track, which most pieces are going to be. Hit play on the audio track, follow the pulse of the audio track. Uh, as long as the students and the conductor can hear that adequately, we're good to go. Now, there are exceptions to that, and I've written some pieces that we call flexible audio track, and we can get into that. But uh, I think all the ones that we're going to look at today are just hit play and go. And so, really, the only thing you need is, a speaker or two. Ideally, it would be stereo pair, but I've been in plenty of classrooms where they're just playing it through a keyboard amp
Hmm.
and off their phone or off the laptop or whatever. Uh, and it again, most of my pieces, it's laid out so that even the band director can be the one that hits play, and it's not complicated. You don't have to get an assistant or somebody to help you. Um, yeah,
I've had times where I've done pieces and I have that kid like sitting last chair trumpet who can barely find the right end of the trumpet, but he or she is very good at pressing a button.
there you go.
So you can find, would you at measure, if there's cues like at measure this,
Mhm.
would you make sure? And they take it so seriously. I love that, finding a place for that kid. Another thing I thought of too, like when I've done this, you have to, like if you're running it, say you're in a performance, I've done it where we ran it through the speakers of the auditorium, but you
Okay.
also have to run it through a monitor so you and the band can hear it. Because if it's going out to the hall, but you can't hear it, some bad things can happen. So I think
Yes.
logistically, people need to think about how they're going to do it.
And honestly, all of my preface notes in my scores, I used Alex Shapiro's template because she lays it out so well. She's like, "Hey, in ideal world, you're going to have stereo speakers at the back of the band, not the front of the stage where they're not going to hear it and only the audience is going to hear it, but at the back of the band above their heads so that it's not hurting their ears. And then the director is going to have a monitor up in the front too." Now, if that's not possible, then maybe only the speakers in the back of the band or the house PA, but then you've got to have some way that the band is hearing it.
Yep. So make sure you've thought of that. And if you're in a new space that you don't rehearse in, which most of us do, make sure you
Right.
take the time to figure it out so it goes well in your performance. All right,
Yes.
so
Never rehearse that.
we're gonna listen to some of your pieces. First one is a grade 1.5 called Electric Breakdance. I like it because it's in 6/8, and there's not enough of this like kind of. I know it's not unison band, but it's very thickly scored, right, with kind of people together. Tell us a little bit about the piece.
Sure. Yeah, it's supposed to be an introduction to 6/8 in my mind. It's, just the basic 6/8 rhythms, and they're hearing it in the track. And again, in my vision of the piece as I wrote it, it's this alien that is dancing in this fancy mech. It's the cover. I don't know if you showed the cover. You're going to show the cover, but um, and so uh, it's like you said, it's mostly unison rhythms. There's a couple little spaces for a soloist or a solee in the event that a single clarinet player doesn't want to play by themselves. No problem, you can have the whole section do it. But it gives each I think it gives almost everybody, a little chance, like two measures. I mean, we're talking really short solo, uh, but a little chance to shine. So,
Cool. And on each one of these, I think we're going to play a clip of the piece, not necessarily all of it, but people can
sure.
also go find them anywhere they want to. All right, let's check it
Yeah.
out. Here's Electric Breakdance. Okay, so the next piece we're going to listen to is called Technoblade, grade 2 with recorded track. I love that there's 4/4 and 3/4, some mixed meter in there, and there's lots of accidentals. So tell us about the piece, including the use of, did you say C flat?
Yeah, there's a C flat in there. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so first of all, this is based on my hobby of knife throwing. I'm an amateur knife thrower in my backyard with my teenage sons. We'll throw knives together. Don't worry, at wooden targets, everything's safe. Uh, and this fun fact: this piece is by far my bestseller. I mean,
Hmm.
this piece has been performed all over the world. It's so fun when I get a recording from a group in Thailand or Japan or Korea. Like, oh man, definitely my most international piece. It got done at Midwest a couple years ago, and that kind of blew the lid off of it. So I'm really honored that so many people are performing this. Yeah, if there's one piece that people are going to know by Benjamin Taylor, it's probably this one or Shattering Infinity.
All
um,
right.
so yeah, why the C flats? Well, it's let's see. I'm trying to remember that exact passage, but it makes sense with the music theory of the moment. And as I talked with Jim Mobley, the head commissioner on this piece, because I originally had it as B natural. It went from B flat to B natural back to B flat. And he was like, no, let's just put it as a C flat the way it should be in whatever key we're in. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But again, music theory should state that it should be a C flat. And what a great chance to teach the kids that C flat is the same note as B natural and it's nothing to be scared of. And you're going to see more music like that in your life eventually anyway. So you might as well see it and understand that a C flat is a B natural.
I'm just going to say this. I don't remember if that concert B natural happens in the trumpet part or not. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head,
I think it's the
but
flutes and uh, I think it's just flutes and clarinets because it's
okay.
like the high melody, if I remember
Because
correctly.
I'll just say it. If you had, say, D flat on trumpet, right? And if you actually got your kids to kick out their third valve slide, but then if you did that, then you're a champion. But know
Yes,
that if you go from the 1, 2, and 3 back to the concert B flat and open, you don't have to bring the slide in every time. You can like leave it out and just move the fingers. So
there you
again,
go.
apparently it's not
Yeah.
in the piece, but we got something in there. All right, let's listen to it. Here's a part of Technoblade. The next piece is a little bit harder, grade 2.5. It's called Player One Press Start. And this includes mouthpiece blowing, like blowing across the mouthpiece. Tell us where that came from, the old video game style.
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up with these games. Original. I had my dad got me my brothers and I, an Atari. We had like one of the first consoles. Um, and then, of course, a regular Nintendo and a Nintendo 64. And back in those days, you occasionally had to like blow the dust out of the thing to get it to work. And so I wanted to bring that in to this piece. So, yeah, in the beginning, like there's this little thing and everybody blows across their mouthpiece, um, and a couple groups have even gone way gung ho, and I have seen videos of them performing the piece, and their percussionists have real Nintendo cartridges, and they're blowing across them, and it's great.
That's
Yeah.
cool. There is a cut time Mario Brothers like section, right? So it's very
Hmm.
video game sounding. There's a section that's based on the blues and a section based on the blues scale. I think that's kind of where this recording is going to cut off. So, has this been a popular piece as well?
It has, yeah. This one's getting around. Hmm.
Cool. All right, let's check it out. Here's player one, press start.
Hey, does anyone want to play some video games? Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Player one, press start.
Just kidding. Sometimes that works. There we go.
We were just talking off air a little bit about Technoblade, and you said there was something that you kind of left out that you want to tell people about that piece.
Oh yeah, just that. So there's this section at the beginning where the students are playing on their music stand with a pencil. They're like tapping it and scraping it across the top. It's supposed to be, the metal sounds of the music stand and the scraping of it are similar to the sounds we're hearing in the audio track of the knives hitting the targets and then suddenly sometimes scraping off. And uh, anyway, I've seen several groups, and it gives me a kick that they've used glow sticks instead of pencils, and they've like dimmed the lights, and it looks so cool to have all the kids on stage, and they're doing these scrapes and stuff, and it's all unison. Everybody's going in the same direction, and it looks really cool. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
I love when directors come up with creative ways of presenting my music that I didn't even think about, and then they do something fun like that.
And
Yeah.
there's a good chance they just listened to a kid, like a kid came up with the idea, and they're like, you know what, that's a good idea. Sometimes we can give our kids that leeway.
Right, right.
Sometimes. All right, next piece is a grade three inspiration lyrical work called "The Hope Within." Has 5 percussion parts. Where did this come from?
Ooh, this one's a deep. Uh, this one's been sensitive side. Uh, So the commissioner, his name's Brett Richardson, and he's a good friend of mine. We went to grad school together at IU, and he reached out saying, "Hey, my mom has battled depression for years. She recently passed away, taking her own life, and I want to write a piece. I want to commission you to write a piece to commemorate her and her life, uh, and also to impart, to raise awareness of mental health and." And being able to talk about it in a way that is not stigmatized. And that was also a time for me that I was going through stuff, and because I deal with depression, ups and downs, um, and also another friend of mine had just lost a son tragically, and so I was like, man, what can I do? What am I
Hmm.
going to do to write a piece it, that can take these really hard things in life and still say there's hope and um there's good. And so this piece is that product, the hope within. It comes, I mean, it's literally referencing a scripture, which I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but um it's something like the hope that each one of us has within us in Christ, or something to that effect. I am a Christian, and that certainly plays into this piece. I think maybe the one thing that you can listen for as you listen, there's a theme that is three E flats in a row. It'll be like chime, 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 and that is remember. Uh, and the idea for me behind that, the meaning in it is, let's remember all the good things about Brett's mother, or about the son that was lost tragically, or etc. Right? And be able to move through this with the good in mind.
Okay, we have two more pieces we're going to listen to of yours. This one's called Shattering Infinity, grade 4, 7 percussion parts. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this is based on the idea of a fractal, a visual fractal.
What is a fractal?
Yeah, fractals are infinitely repeating pattern. So we see them in nature in like a fern leaf where infinitely repeating in that like if you zoom way in, it looks the same as if you zoomed way out. And a friend of mine, the cover image is one of her works. Natalie Kelsey's a fractal artist that I really enjoy her work. And so this piece is the answer to the question of what would a musical fractal sound like? What would can I have a piece where like if I could compress the whole piece, the 6 minute work into 6 seconds, would it sound the same? And my best answer to that is this piece. So it's basically 5 pitches, which is the riff, the theme that you're going to continue to hear. Bum, 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 which, by the way, also spirals out like a snail shell, which is also another type of fractal. And so, and those 5 pitches become the key areas for the 5 sections of the piece. So yes, in a way, if we were able to like squish it down, then yes, we would hear that riff. Bum, 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 bum. All that to say, like your audience doesn't need to know any of that. It's just a fun, groovy. The middle portion of the piece has been so popular, and I got enough requests from people saying, "Could you please make this groove section into a stand tune?" We have all these. It seems like the trombone players, especially, but everybody really likes this tune, and they're playing it all the time on their own anyway. So I did that. This is on a couple different state lists, which has also been really nice for me because I get, people purchasing this piece that wouldn't have otherwise known my music.
Well, that's cool that you get an idea of the whole piece. You said at a smaller level because we're not going to listen to the whole piece. So hopefully you can hear some of that in this next couple minutes or so. So
yeah.
All right, here it is, Shattering Infinity. Great, Ben. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today. A couple questions before we listen to your last piece. First, a piece of music that you really love for band.
Okay. I mean, I have many, but I'll choose one. uh, Years ago, I wrote a piece called "Epic Bacon Funk." Yeah, I know we all love bacon, and it's a concerto for alto saxophone and grade three band. And it's like 7 minutes, not a huge full length concerto. And it as the name implies, Epic Bacon Funk. It's a funk. It's almost quasi big band in
Hmm.
its sound. Um, don't worry, the alto saxophonist doesn't have to do any improvisation, but the alto saxophone part is a professional level part. And anyway, the reason I mention it because it has there was we were working on it in the before the premiere. Sam Fritz is the commissioner, and he this is a work that he is playing the alto saxophone part. He wanted to have a work where he performed with his own band because like that never happens, right? You never have the band director actually playing with the students. And he was like, I model for them all the time in class, but they're like, Mr. Fritz, you never play, and so now he's playing in front of the band. And anyway, they brought in a special education class to just sit and observe the band. And one of the youth, the moment they started playing sound, he started clapping very enthusiastically and like it wasn't really clear what he was exactly saying, but it was very happy, like yeah, yeah, and like they're playing a run through of the piece, and he clapped the entire 7 minutes, and we finished, and he was still clapping, and all of us were moved. It was really cool. Like
Hmm.
we played it just for him, is what he felt, and it was just one of the most impactful moments I've had with music, where it's like, yeah, we did just play that just for you, and that's why we all are playing our music, is to share it. We it doesn't do any good to keep it to ourselves.
I love that. So on piggybacking on top of that, a piece of advice you might have for band directors who are in the car heading off to school right now.
Yeah, love your students because that's what my band directors did with me. It goes, I mean, you guys all know it goes way beyond the music and the time in rehearsal. I'm so grateful to my high school band director. I'll give him a shout out, Rick Chambers. uh, the amount of time he spent with us in sectionals and pit orchestra rehearsals and of course the endless marching band bus trips and all that stuff just really made a big impact on me because of who he was as a person, not as a band director. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. That whole like modeling for kids and leading them. We don't have to think too much. Like you just be you, and
Yeah.
that's what motivates them and moves them. I remember my band director, Craig Skeffington. One of the reasons I really appreciated him was because he worked really hard. Like that was it. He was just a hard worker. So he never told me, "Hey, you need to work hard." He just worked hard, and I said, "Well, I guess you just work hard."
I want to be like that.
So there
Yeah.
you go. Cool. All right. Last piece of music is, and again, a grade four that's called Seeds of Glass. I'm very curious as to the history behind it because it sounds painful.
No, it's not painful.
Okay.
Uh, in fact, this one's based on dubstep music.
Okay.
This was during that phase of my composing. Uh, yeah, this is a work for band and video track. There's no audio in the video track, so the only audio we're hearing is the acoustic band. And the video track is what we call a flexible track, meaning you do have an assistant who's following the score and just clicking the advance button to the next video track. So you're able to, be a little flexible with your tempos and whatnot. Um, Emily Moss, the commissioner, and I wanted to create something that was like an artistic, abstract band and video piece. No plot, there's no dialogue, there's no um, story in that sense. But just like all good art, I think it prompts questions and also makes connections so that you, as the viewer and the listener, are like, "Oh, cool." That's literally what I feel when I watch this piece and as I wrote it. don't worry, the glass parts that you just said might sound scary. It's just because the video component that was made by a good friend of mine presents like these little seeds of glass that like eventually grow into this glass organism looking thing. And so hence the title. But yeah, the music is all very like electronic sounding. Like I'm emulating a bunch of electronic sounds. Like, I'm altering the snare drum by putting a splash cymbal on it, and you're hitting the splash cymbal, which gives it a really sharp attack. I'm doing some funky stuff with the timpani with a rolled suspended cymbal. I'm occasionally having a sound kind of like stereo pan across the band. At the very beginning, they're all going like shh, and they do it, and it makes the round. Anyway, yeah, that's what I was interested with this piece.
Cool. Ben, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Let's check out Seeds of Glass. We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.